Hello, everyone.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, Wade and Natalie and Sigrid and Elena and Patricia and Cynthia, Marjorie, Janet, Carrie, Sarah, Kelly, Mary. Oh gosh, now the squares are moving around. I won't be able to do it. Welcome, welcome, everyone. So, as everyone is joining, perhaps Bryce, you can write also in the chat that we are recording currently. Welcome to Mindful Poetry Moments. So I think it looks like many of you, if not all of you, have been in this space before. So can you turn that down?
Yeah.
But just in case you're new to the mindful poetry space, we're with the Well, Stacy and Bryce, and one of our biggest programs is called Mindful Music Moments, which combines mindfulness and music in schools for daily use, for centering and imagining and getting ready for the day. So I had become connected with the On Being Project. So I approached them to see if we could do mindfulness and poetry together for Poetry Month. Fast forward to the beginning of the pandemic, we had decided we wanted to meet to celebrate mindfulness, contemplation, poetry, and community together. Weren't able to do that, decided to do an experiment of going online. And a lot of the members of this particular group started gathering at a time where we were really needing to be near one another. And we continue to do so. So the format is simple. And our guests, who I'll introduce in a second, we're going to start with a meditation, and then we're going to move into celebration of a poem. After we hear about the poem, we begin to make our own meaning about the poem. We'll receive a prompt. We get time to write together, and we get time to share with each other. So I'm super excited. We decided to do another experiment, which was asking members of our community if they wanted to share a poem versus us deciding and bringing a poem in. And many of you offered. It was super duper hard to decide who was going to do it because I got so many good offers. So no, we're going to keep it up. So we're very excited today to present two special guests. Some of you probably already know Troy Bronsink, who has been a collaborator of ours in all of mindful poetry. He is the founder of The Hive in Cincinnati and is a writer, meaning maker, equity space holder, and he will be opening up our time together with a meditation. We're also going to hear from Scott Holzman, who the first time I was in this beautiful space was when Scott had this space for a wonderful project called Chase Public. And it really was a lot like the Well tries to be, which is really bringing people together who love poems, who love community, who love the idea of Scott loves experiments in being and being connected. So we're super happy to have Scott talk about his poem that he suggested, which is Under One Small Star. I think that's it. So we're going to turn it over to Troy.
Right on. Thanks, Stacy. It's great to see y'all. If you aren't doing gallery view, you should do that. Just get a glimpse at all the folks that are here for a moment. So it's to kind of catch up to our bodies and let the attention rest on bodies catch up to our fingers and lips and minds, and then guide us in a particular piece around well, around attention and particularity. This poem, Scott and I spent some time with it maybe 2 weeks ago, and there were some great invitations to consider how the particular is vulnerable, and how we tend to kind of want to move to a place of thinking about universals, but the particular just kind of keeps pulling us into our own life in a powerful way. But first, just kind of do whatever you need to do to feel comfortable. I mean, a lot of us are coming from our homes, so maybe you already feel that sense of home comfort, but if you need to just stretch a little bit or wiggle your body or shake off the last meeting, you can do that. If you would kind of stretch out your toes for a second and then let them drop down and feel the ground beneath you, feel the way that you're sitting in your chair. And I'm going to invite you to turn your attention inward for a moment. If you want to let your gaze drop or close your eyes, you can. You certainly don't need to. So just notice your breath without changing it. Just notice how your body's rising and falling with your breath. And feel the weight of your body held to the earth, that we're not floating around, but we're grounded and we're participants within, and siblings with the ground beneath our feet and the trees and ground and mountains and waters that surround us. Just feel the weight of your body held right where it is. If you're able to lengthen your spine a little bit, by noticing your sit bones in your spine. And to get a little bit of sense of spaciousness, often we think of our experience as being held within our skin or our epidermis. So just widening the attention of our own space and our energy, what it is we're giving and receiving. Just place your mind's attention on the wall across the room for a moment. Without looking there, just notice that, and then walk that attention closer, right in front of your knees, and then maybe book reading distance away. Move that attention now through the center of the body to 4 or 5 inches behind you. And with your mind's eye, just imagine the floor behind you, and then the ceiling behind you, and then back to the floor. If you can soften the quality of how your back is receiving the space behind you. Maybe you notice the temperature. The light, the color. And just adjusting your posture to be able to settle into that a little bit more. And then we're going to widen our attention to the left side of our body, crown of the head, the left side of the face, and the arm, the ribs, the hip and knee and ankle. And just feel into that space just a few inches off of you. Maybe like you're standing by a window that's warming you up in a cold day. And sweep that attention through the center of the body towards the right side. And again, now scanning the body from the crown of the head, the right side of the face, where your shirt hits your right shoulder. your ribs and your hip and knee and ankle. Noticing that space to the right of you. And then let that attention come back to the center of the body like a pendulum or a tire swing that's been slowing down. Move down and into the body from the crown of the head through the busy brain. Just a little bit of compassion or curiosity or grace for all the things that the brain's been busy with. Mistakes and regrets, hopes and desires, all the feedback. And then going down behind the eyes and between the ears, moving through the sinuses and the mouth, swallowing and noticing the root of the tongue. Following that sensation down the chest to the space of the heart and the lungs supporting it. All that resting on the solar plexus and resting on the breath, like a huge beach ball sitting there, resting in the pelvis. Bring your attention to your breath again. And I'm going to invite you to kind of stay in that place of awareness, but if you're willing to open your eyes and look at your hands. I invite you to choose a hand. Pay a little more attention to and maybe rest that inside of the other hand. Maybe you chose a dominant hand, maybe you're ambidextrous and you didn't have to too hard about it. So you've got a hand you're looking at here. Maybe you're looking at the inside of it. And for a moment, choose a finger. Focus on that finger shape. Remember a time where that hand and that finger play in the dirt or the sand. Remember the first time you held somebody's hand. Remember the time you held a tool that was strange, or a time where a tool had become so familiar, or an instrument had become so familiar on that hand. Flip your hand over and look at the other side of that hand and that finger. Just the particularity of this part of you that's been on this journey with you, that will carry with you more than likely through the rest of your days. Notice the color. Notice how it's like the other fingers. Notice how it's like other people's fingers, and yet that it's something pretty unique, particular. See if you can have a little compassion and curiosity. What would this finger have to say to you about its journey? Its reciprocity with the other muscles and phalanges or skeletal system, the rest of your body, how it works together, all the inside pieces, nerves, circulation. And then as we end here, just maybe resting that hand in your hand again and letting that lay in front of you and opening your attention to the rest of your body. even checking in with your own intention for being here. Your own curiosity. Your own gratitude. That's the last step here, looking back into the screen. Just catching the eye of a couple people, their own reason for being here, their own intention, their own curiosities. Their hands, their life. From this space, I'll hand it over to my friend Scott.
Thanks, Troy. I feel like I'm moving very deliberately now. Each little motion, I feel like I've got a little bit of myself, a little bit of my awareness that I kind of dripped off of me throughout that process, and it feels good. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Scott Holzman. I'm speaking to you from Cincinnati, Ohio, the unceded territorial lands of the Miami, the Shawnee, and the Hopewell. We're going to talk about a poem that's been really, really important to me in my poetic life and my non-poetic life, as much as my life drips away from the land of the poem. And since you're all muted, if you're not familiar with the poet we're talking about, I'm going to say her name a few times slowly, and you can practice it to yourselves without being embarrassed. Wislawa Szymborska is a Polish poet. Wislawa Szymborska. I'm going to give you just a little bit of context on Szymborska before we move forward, because how can we understand things outside of context, especially things that reach across the specific and universal, as Troy alluded to. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly out of respect for time, but all of this information is available in a efficient Googling if you want to go find it again on your own. Wislawa Szymborska, born July 1923, died February 2012, was a Polish poet, essayist, translator, and recipient of the 1996 Nobel Prize in Literature. She was born in Provence. She resided in Krakow until the end of her life. In Poland, Szymborska's books have reached sales rivaling prominent prose authors, though she wrote in a poem called Some Like Poetry that, quote, perhaps 2 in 1,000 people like poetry. Szymborska was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature, quote, for poetry that with ironic precision allows the historical and biological context to come to light in fragments of human reality. She became internationally well known as a result, her work being translated into English and many European languages, as well as Arabic, Hebrew, Japanese, Persian, and Chinese, said Japanese twice. The poem we're reading today was translated from Polish into English by Szymborska's longtime friend and collaborator, as well as one-time obituarist Claire Cavanaugh. Szymborska frequently employed literary devices as ironic precision, paradox, contradiction, and understatement. Many of her poems feature war and terrorism. She wrote from an unusual point of view very often, such as that of a cat in a newly empty apartment, and her reputation rests on a relatively small body of work, fewer than 350 poems. When asked why she had published so few poems, she said, quote, I have a trash can in my home. I'm going to let you know about one symbol that appears in the poem in case you are not familiar with it. I can't guarantee that this is the falcon she's referring to, but it's certainly one of the falcons she's referring to, and that is the falcon from Yeats' poem, The Second Coming, which begins, turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. And in this poem, the falconer represents a source of authority and safety, which is now lost. The falcon kind of represents the relationship between man and beast, which signifies kind of concepts of human control. And this falcon will show up in Szymborska's poem, which I am so delighted to read to you now. I'm going to put it up on the screen, and I'm going to narrate my process of doing this, as everyone does, because we feel very, very anxious when we are doing something that other people cannot see. But now you can see it, I trust. Can I get a thumbs up if that is true? Great, wonderful. Under One Small Star by Wislawa Szymborska. My apologies to chance for calling it necessity. My apologies to necessity if I'm mistaken, after all. Please don't be angry, happiness, that I take you as my due. May my dead be patient with the way my memories fade. My apologies to time for all the world I overlook each second. My apologies to past loves for thinking that the latest is the first. Forgive me, distant wars, for bringing flowers home. Forgive me, open wounds, for pricking my finger. I apologize for my record of minuets to those who cry from the depths. I apologize to those who wait in railway stations for being asleep today at 5 a.m. Pardon me, hounded hope, for laughing from time to time. Pardon me, deserts, that I don't rush to you bearing a spoonful of water. And you, falcon, unchanging year after year, always in the same cage, your gaze always fixed on the same point in space, forgive me, even if it turns out you were stuffed. My apologies to the felled tree for the table's 4 legs. My apologies to great questions for small answers. Truth, please don't pay me much attention. Dignity, please be magnanimous. Bear with me, O mystery of existence, as I pluck the occasional thread from your train. Soul, don't take offense that I've only got you now and then. My apologies to everything that I can't be everywhere at once. My apologies to everyone that I can't be each woman and each man. I know I won't be justified as long as I live, since I myself stand in my own way. Don't bear me ill will, speech, that I borrow weighty words, then labor heavily so that they may seem light. I'm going to pull this down from the screen now, but if you would like to continue to reference this poem, it is very easily Googleable. Google is our friend, most of the time. When I think about this poem, and I'm going to move through this fairly quickly to make sure we don't lose any of our writing time, but I'm going to share just a little bit of what I really think about when I think about this work. And it's really intricately tied to another piece of writing in my mind, which is G.H. Hardy's 1940 essay, A Mathematician's Apology, in which Hardy, who was one of the kind of progenitors of calculus, makes an argument that mathematics has value independent of, sorry, I've got some sweeping going on outside. Let's see if I can clip that out. If not, enjoy the sounds of my context, which is some sweeping outside. He made an argument that mathematics has a value independent of its application. that in an appeal to beauty, he believed that mathematics was valuable in its own right, and that the exploration of mathematics was an exploration of beauty. And this book is one of my favorite books about creativity, and it's interesting that it comes from high academic math. This was also my first exposure to the delightfully termed field of apologetics, and the idea of speaking in defense of the self or the patterns that the self is in, which kind of add flavor to the life, that add direction and add purpose. Under this one small star, here we are together with these very specific things that we want to do. And understanding this angle of the concept of apology feels very powerful to me. Through apologizing both to ourselves and to the world around us, or whatever audience has any interest in what we have to say, we can clarify our own ontologies, our cosmologies, and our personhood, both the way that those things live on the outsides and the insides of us. And I think in this poem, Szymborska makes it very clear that she's talking directly to herself, as well as the world, the universe, fate, and God, or whoever. I think this is a poem of heroic apology, of reckoning. And I think it's one that, if you felt like this scratched an itch in your brain, I expect it's one that you might return to. My invitation to all of you is to consider apology, to consider how to make apology a spiritually productive action, and how, with our words and our writing, we can begin to clarify our awareness of the space around us, as Troy was leading us through. And I can't get out of my brain because he gave me just this little moment where I got to be into it. But how we can understand via apology our space in our world.
So would you like us to set the timer, Scott?
I think that would be great. Unless there are any reflections that anybody wants to share in the next just couple quick minutes. If there's any alignment that we want to have, it would be great to hear maybe two things that really stood out for people in this poem. If we have a volunteer. Okay, it feels like maybe we need to process. Okay, Deborah.
It struck me that confession is similar to apology. I've always kind of avoided the idea of going into a small room and having somebody listen, and it just seemed very patriarchal, but it might be similar.
Thank you. Sarah?
Oh, thank you for this wonderful introduction to the poem. I think I'm thinking about how you said the field of apologetics, which totally surprised me in the context of this poem, because I don't think of apologizing to people as being apologetics, but I think I also need to Google the term a little bit more. But when thinking about the field of apologetics, I was looking at the line, "I apologize for my record of minuets to those who cry from the depths," because it almost seems like the one that it's like it makes me think of apologetics. It's like something almost in defense of my minuets, and it's just something I'm thinking about. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Natalie will quickly, and then we'll jump into writing time. We'll stay on the beautiful schedule that's been prepared for us.
Yeah, really quickly, I will just say for me, the word apology, apologizing, that for what I thought was that balance of self-love towards yourself and that love towards everything outside of self, and how that feels, and that constantly is a balancing, and how the word apology fits into loving and caring outwardly and inwardly. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Natalie. Stacy, let's get that timer running. And I wish you all well in a few minutes of quiet thought.
All right. So I'll set a timer for 10 minutes. If you have questions about the prompt itself, write it in the chat. Scott, if you don't mind keeping an eye on the chat just to see if we can help clarify. So we'll see you on the other side of our writing time. All right, friends. I believe we're coming or have come to the end of 10 minutes. I was so excited by this poem and the prompt that I started writing and only later remembered I was the timekeeper. So I feel like we're in pretty good shape. So this next part, I see some beautiful, beautiful poems that have been added to the chat. That's always a great place for them. And what we like to do is hear your voice. So if you'd like to read what you've written, all you need to do is use one of the icons at the bottom to either raise your hand in the chat or you can put your name in the chat if you struggle to find the little hand up. And will you raise our hand for me?
Yeah.
So Scott will call on our readers.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. And I'd encourage all of you, if you can, if you're feeling comfortable in this space, to turn your cameras on. Just I've been reflecting a lot on feedback lately. And as we ask people to be in a vulnerable space where they share their very much in progress thoughts and writing, the feedback that we can give them with our faces and our ability to have a common text chat is a real opportunity that we shouldn't pass up to support each other. Starting first, I'm going to do these in order, and I hope that they're in the order they were raised. Sarah, if you'd like to go first, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. For extremely brief context, I got a handwritten letter in the mail from someone who recently left our Unitarian church, and it was listing all of the problems he had with it. And so I thought I would write up a letter of apologetics. If I'm using it the right way, I'm not sure. Dear John, I write in defense of a progressive Unitarian church board willing to rent to a humble congregation of Spanish-speaking Pentecostals at a reduced rate. I write in defense of the hyper-intellectuals who have multiplied at an alarming rate in our humble little writing group. I write in defense of the man who teaches the Anglos to speak and write a Spanish that breaks many rules established in the Real Academia Española. I write in defense of the professor who wants to teach children's literature to Indigenous working women in Los Angeles, and in defense of the Indigenous working women for daring to read classical literature. I write in defense of our board president who suffers from analysis paralysis, but spends an extensive amount of time in superlatives and hyperbole, thanking every single volunteer. I write in defense of my perhaps sophisticated or perhaps just misogynist use of the word bitch at the bar last night when protesting being called a Christian. I write in defense of the joyful, disastrous, messy, human cesspool that is our frail attempts at creating a beloved community. Please don't take your righteous self away. Please bring your haikus, your multitudes, and join us. Love, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Up next, we have Deborah.
Confession. I'm sorry that I bumped your knee when I passed your shadow. I was running from my own weaknesses, trying to avoid your warmth and the sound of the rain.
Thank you, Deborah. It's beautiful. Elena.
Hi. I wrote a poem called Apologia. In defense of character, more than personality, more than words that hurt, this new self gathers no sin, no retribution, just an apology in letter form, filled with confidence and grace. This is me. This is me, old now, but younger than my youth, younger than time itself, back to the beginning where every comment was a compliment, This is the other country where life is not an obstacle course. Life is the essence of this apology. Forgiveness is its fruit. I can spend an hour at a bus stop. A smile is a perfect apology to a worn out world, tired of the fight. We lay down our arms, soldiers no more. We join hands, not as penance, but as jubilation. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Elena. Wade.
That one time it escalated from peal to howl. He sat red-faced and indignant, his every imagined intention finally confirmed, searing so smugly at the validation of my degeneracy. He always knew it would happen like this. Accused of an unrepentant soul, it should be obvious that I must be held accountable to his title, his authority, his God. Oh, I'm sorry. Now can we go back to class?
Fantastic. Thank you, Wade. Bryce and or Stacy.
Thank you. They called it an inventory, a searching and fearless deep dive into our moral shortcomings, a way to unearth a path toward freedom. I saw a time-lapse video yesterday of a bean growing from seed to plant. Long before upward growth, the roots burrowed down sideways, tentacles exploring the ecosystem for stability and nourishment, inventorying possibility. Only later comes the amends. Only later comes the stalk. I apologize to humility for my barrenness, to hubris for excessiveness, to honesty for leaving it so something brilliant. I apologize to the earth for forgetting the roots, the sky for forgetting the rain, and to you, so many yous, for forgetting to love the circuitous, the messy, the soil, the hope.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Natalie.
Thank you. In this moment, I ask, as a tear slowly drips onto my warm cheek, my apology to happiness. Please do not be angry with me. Heart, please don't push through my chest as I look to understand what is my best. Breathe, I quiver out loud, wanting no one to hear the sound. Sorry, there I go again, placing my love up against a world which holds so much. I am happy. Is this allowed? Or should I be sorry and stay in doubt? Please consider my plea. My heart deserves loving peace. Care I can do. Farewell sometimes too. I apologize for what I've yet to do.
Amazing. Thank you, Natalie. Amy.
Okay. You were being mean to me. I felt you were being mean to me. And I think you, heartless, knew it. You asked if I wanted to cross you and make you even meaner, leaving me wondering why. You will never say you're sorry. I will never hear those words come from you. What is the, can't read my handwriting, sorry. What is the power of those two tiny words? I'm sorry. They can heal decades-long injuries that fester with green inflamed pus. You could make things better, start to rebuild if you wanted to. Do you want to? Maybe the better question is why I so desperately need to hear it, hear the words, I'm sorry, I apologize. And yet, I know I will probably never hear it. You can't say it, I can't let it go. How do you grow? How do I grow so I can let it go? Should I? Should I let it go and accept that you will not, cannot give me what I want? Is it a need or a want? And if it's a want, not a need, how do I switch it over to want? I'm sorry, if it's a need, not a want, how do I switch it over to a want so I can choose to let go of it? Because if apology is something I want but don't have to have, well, how do I get there? Wants aren't absolutely necessary, but more of a choice. And I could make the choice to realize you have any obligation and to release myself from the expectation. Is that the key? To free myself, to learn to expect less from you? Am I pushing you too hard? And that's where I stopped.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Troy.
Gosh, these are beautiful. I love this. Here we go. My black cat Klaus sits across from me on the oak table. His green cornea is losing ground to his pupils as the afternoon light flows across us. I suppose he's excited by a joke he just remembered, or a chase, or adjusting to the light, or curious about my tapping fingers. If there's one thing he's not doing, it's apologizing. I read a lot of church apologetics as a kid, paper pages dedicated to justification of a universe narrowed by an eye as small as a god, as small as an individual squinting to keep power. I could write a scathing poem about the man here, or about religion's sin outnumbering the 70 times 7 statute of limitations, but to do so means narrowing my own eye. So I suppose my apology is that my narrow body in this narrow time might hide some of the light for many of us. Light shining in or light shining out. This apology is not an excuse to cover over a thing. Perhaps it's waiting. Perhaps it's for waiting so long to lift the shutters off of our love.
Amazing. Thank you, Troy. And thank you to your cat. Marjorie. Marjorie, are you able to find yourself to the unmute button? We'll jump Marjorie for just, oh, there we go. Hi, Marjorie.
Start video. Wait.
There we go.
There we go. Hi. Okay, this one is called I Will Start. Did the video come on? There we go. Okay, I will start. When all the world's suffering seems so great and so vast, how can I, so small, bemoan my past? The personal struggles, the little affronts, causes me to question my needs and wants. So selfish and self-centered when it's really considered. There's no excuse to be so embittered, living in gratitude for all I've been blessed, instead of behaving so self-possessed. But how does one live with joy in one's heart? I must figure it out, and today I will start.
Thank you, Marjorie. It's really lovely. I like the form a lot. It looks like our last hand up for the moment is Leslie.
Hi. Nice to be here. And I love everybody's work. It's inspiring. I'm flowing again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not paying attention closely and so many tickets. The path unwound down through the canyon, over the stony bottom of my soul, and backsplashes up all over you with ooze and pain, finding you suddenly unaware in the dark corner of my mind, where we are still swinging on a rope over the water of life. We never knew how deep it might not be. I'm sorry I could not warn you as the tsunami crashes up darkly, swallowing the forest and thoughts, submerging all possibility. I'm sorry my hand was slick with silt and I could not grip tight enough. I'm sorry Mauna Loa defies the gods with fury and flows to our home and to the sea without permission, into our lives, taking everything in its path. I'm sorry it took me 40 years to bring you here to this wonderful, meandering path where you found me. I'm sorry you didn't know me when I was 16. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. That was lovely. And thanks all of you for thinking and sharing and, well, sharing in a lot of different ways.
My gosh, what a particularly beautiful hour. Troy, thank you so much for that really considered and considerate way of bringing us into our bodies to notice both the particular and the space around us. And Scott, holy moly, you are a treasure. Also, podcast. I was just like, wow, your voice is so great. All of you writers, all of you listeners, really beautiful, beautiful time together. So a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get one more read of the poem from Scott before we say goodbye. So I'm going to send this in an email, but our next gathering, we're taking a break for the holidays, and our next gathering is January 25th. Bryce will be your host, and we'll have Ro Schnur, our dearest Ro, back, and Barbara Schwartzbach, who is here in the room with us, or was earlier, leading the discussion. So we're super excited about that. The poet will be Diane Ackerman, and the poem is called School Prayer. It's really a gorgeous poem. Everything else I'll write in the email to all of you. And I'm so, so grateful to each and every one of you. Scott, would you like to put up the poem and read us out?
I would be happy to put up the poem. I would love for another voice, maybe someone who wasn't quite ready to share their own writing, but wants to participate in this kind of gathering we've had together. If anyone else would like to read this poem, Ellen, would you like to read?
I'd love to.
Fantastic. I will put this poem up on the screen and Ellen will take us out.
Thank you. You can hear me, right, everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Under One Small Star by Wislawa Szymborska. Did I do it right?
Beautiful.
My apologies to chance for calling it necessity. My apologies to necessity if I'm mistaken, after all. Please don't be angry, happiness, that I take you as my due. May my dead be patient with the way my memories fade. My apologies to time for all the world I overlook each second. My apologies to past loves for thinking that the latest is the first. Forgive me, distant wars, for bringing flowers home. Forgive me, open wounds, for pricking my finger. I apologize for my record of minuets to those who cry from the depths. I apologize to those who wait in railway stations for being asleep today at 5 a.m. Pardon me, hounded hope, for laughing from time to time. Pardon me, deserts, that I don't rush to you bearing a spoonful of water. And you, falcon, unchanging year after year, always in the same cage, your gaze always fixed on the same point in space. Forgive me, even if it turns out you were stuffed. My apologies to the felled tree for the table's 4 legs. My apologies to great questions for small answers. Truth, please don't pay me much attention. Dignity, please be magnanimous. Bear with me, O mystery of existence, as I pluck the occasional thread from your train. Soul, don't take offense that I've only got you now and then. My apologies to everything that I can't be everywhere at once. My apologies to everyone that I can't be each woman and each man. I know I won't be justified as long as I live, since I myself stand in my own way. Don't bear me ill will speech, that I borrow weighty words, then labor heavily so that they may seem light.
A truly beautiful poem and a beautiful afternoon. We'll communicate by email and have a spectacular holiday season. Stay nourished, hang out with poets. I'll see y'all soon. Thanks, everyone.